In AD 43, the Roman legions marched into southeastern Britain, beginning a gradual conquest of the island. Some native kingdoms were swiftly subdued, their lands occupied, but others managed to hold on to a fragile independence by aligning themselves with the powerful Roman Empire. One such kingdom was the Iceni, a proud tribe nestled in what is now Norfolk. Their king, Prasutagus, had struck a delicate balance with the Romans by crafting a will that would split his lands between his daughters and the Roman Emperor Nero. But when Prasutagus died, the Romans disregarded his final wishes. Instead of respecting the king's arrangement, they seized the Iceni's lands, killed and enslaved its people, and then turned their attention to the royal family. The king's widow was publicly flogged, and her daughters were brutally assaulted. This angered other neighboring tribes who had grown resentful after years of Roman exploitation, oppressive taxation, and land confiscation. In AD 60, the Roman governor, Gaius Suetonius Paulinus, was leading a campaign against the Druids on the island of Anglesey, off the northwest coast of Wales. Anglesey had long been a refuge for British rebels and a stronghold of the Druids, the spiritual leaders of the native Britons. With Suetonius distracted, the Iceni and many other tribes unhappy with Roman leadership rose up in revolt, led by Boudica. Their first target was the Roman colony of Camulodunum, modern-day Colchester, a symbol of Roman occupation and a place for Roman military veterans. These veterans had been accused of mistreating the locals. Adding to the bitterness was a massive temple dedicated to the former Emperor Claudius, built at great cost to the local population. Boudica and her forces marched on Camulodunum, determined to take the city and strike a blow against Roman oppression. Quintus Petilius Cerialis, a future Roman governor, rushed to relieve the besieged city of Camulodunum. However, the situation was far more desperate than he could have anticipated. Cerialis and his legion were hopelessly outnumbered, facing the overwhelming might of Boudica's rebel army. Despite their discipline, the Roman infantry was quickly overwhelmed by the sheer size and ferocity of the native forces. By the end, the entire infantry was slaughtered, leaving only Cerialis himself and a handful of cavalry to escape with their lives. Inside the city, panic gripped the Roman settlers. Desperate for reinforcements, they sent word to Caius Decianus, the procurator responsible for the region, pleading for help. But Decianus, either underestimating the threat or unwilling to commit, sent only 200 auxiliary troops, far too few to defend the city. Boudica's army descended upon Camulodunum with fury and purpose. The city, poorly defended and without sufficient reinforcements, stood little chance. The Roman defenders held on as long as they could, but the rebel numbers were too many. The rebels swept through, destroying everything in their path. Roman buildings were reduced to ashes, and the people, men, women, and children, were mercilessly slaughtered. No Roman inhabitant was spared. In the wake of this catastrophe, Quintus Decianus, perhaps sensing the magnitude of his failure, fled Britain entirely, escaping to the safety of Gaul and leaving the province in chaos. When Gaius Suetonius Paulinus, the Roman governor of Britain, heard the grim news of the rebellion and the destruction of Camulodunum, he knew that the province was in grave danger. Without hesitation, he made his way to Londinium, a bustling new settlement that had sprung to life since the Roman conquest of AD 43. The city had quickly become a thriving commercial hub, home to traders, Roman officials, and the wealthiest citizens of the province. As Suetonius approached Londinium, he faced a difficult choice. He considered making a stand against the rebellious tribes there, but the devastating defeat of Petilius's forces and his own lack of troops weighed heavily on his mind. He realized that with his numbers too few to resist the massive uprising, staying to defend the city could mean sacrificing his army, and with it, the entire province. Suetonius made the hard decision to abandon Londinium. The city, he determined, must be sacrificed to save the greater whole of Roman Britain. Panic gripped the city's wealthy citizens and traders. Many fled, fearing what was to come. Suetonius took with him those who wished to escape, offering refuge to the lucky few, but many others, whether by choice or circumstance, were left behind, abandoned to face the wrath of the rebels. Boudica's army arrived soon after, and Londinium, like Camulodunum before it, was engulfed in flames. The rebels showed no mercy. Every Roman official, every trader, and every inhabitant who had not escaped with Suetonius was brutally killed. The once thriving city was reduced to ashes. The destruction did not end there. Soon after, the municipium of Verulamium met the same terrible fate. Rebel forces swept through, leaving nothing but ruin in their wake. After these raids, it is said that between 70 and 80,000 people perished in the slaughter. While the Britons continued their destruction, Suetonius regrouped his forces. He amassed a force of almost 10,000 men, including his own Legio XIII Gemina. Suetonius took a stand in a narrow passage with a wood behind him that opened out into a wide plain. The open plain would have made surprise attack impossible. His men were heavily outnumbered, and the rebel forces they were about to face numbered some 200,000 men. The sides of the passage protected the Roman flanks from attack, and the forest impeded approach from the rear. Although the Britons were gathered in considerable force, the Iceni and other tribes had been disarmed some years before the rebellion, so they were poorly equipped. On the Roman side, Suetonius placed his legionaries in close order. As their armies deployed, the leaders would have sought to motivate their soldiers. Suetonius addressed his legionnaires.
Ignore the racket made by these savages. There are more women than men in their ranks. They are not soldiers. They are not even properly equipped. We have beaten them before, and when they see our weapons and feel our spirit, they will crack. Stick together. Throw the javelins, then push forward. Knock them down with your shields and finish them off with your swords. Forget about plunder. Just win, and you will have everything.
Boudica's forces charged the Roman lines, but the narrow battlefield funneled the Britons into a bottleneck, blunting their attack. The Roman soldiers, trained in tight formation combat, held their ground and launched volleys of javelins into the oncoming Britons, inflicting heavy casualties. The Britons could not push through the Roman lines, and their army started to waver. The Britons knew they had no chance against the Roman discipline, and the entire army started to retreat. Roman soldiers killed thousands of Britons in the ensuing chaos, while the Britons were unable to regroup or break through Roman lines. The Romans had won an overwhelming victory, for by some accounts little less than 80,000 Britons fell, at a cost of some 400 Romans killed and a not much greater number of wounded. After the battle, Boudica is said by some to have poisoned herself, though others argued she fell ill and died. She was given a lavish burial. The crisis had almost persuaded Nero to abandon Britain, but with the revolt brought to a decisive end, the occupation of Britain continued. Fearing that Suetonius's punitive actions against the British tribes would provoke further rebellion, Nero replaced him with the more conciliatory Publius Petronius Turpilianus. While the defeat of Boudica consolidated Roman rule in southern Britain, northern Britain remained volatile.